In an extraordinary turn of events, the latest developments from the U.S. Treasury have sparked intense interest among global currency investors. Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar News, your trusted source for timely insights and analysis. As of the current date in the USA, attention has turned toward the Vietnamese Dong VND, following the emergence of an official Treasury document that moves the currency from speculation into institutional review. For years, investors have patiently watched undervalued currencies like the VND, Iraqi Dinar, IQD, and Zimbabwean Dollar, ZWL, waiting for a clear policy shift. That moment may now be arriving. What makes this development so impactful is the document's direct reference to the VND in connection with revaluation discussions, an unprecedented step from a major institution. Analysts and financial observers are buzzing, noting this is not just a passing mention. The language points to real-time alignment with IMF recommendations and World Bank benchmarks, specifically citing bilateral trade stabilization agreements as a catalyst for the review. This phrasing, far from routine, has been interpreted as a signal that high-level discussions are actively unfolding. The Vietnamese dong, historically managed under a rigid system focused on domestic control rather than global parity, has now entered a phase of economic maturity. Vietnam's rapid industrial growth, surging exports, and increasing foreign investment have led to consistent GDP growth above 6%. Yet the dong continues to trade far below its potential open market value. With this new Treasury acknowledgement, long-held theories of revaluation have now moved into the realm of policy planning. The broader financial community has responded swiftly. Renowned voices like Daniel Richter of the Global Currency Institute called the Treasury reference a watershed moment, while Sarah Kim of Asia Forex Weekly interpreted it as groundwork being laid for significant changes. Former IMF advisor David Moe noted that such language from the IMF generally surfaces only when concrete valuation shifts are being prepared behind the scenes. These insights suggest a broader institutional movement is underway, not only for Vietnam but potentially for Iraq and Zimbabwe as well. As this shift gains traction, many believe the Vietnamese dong could be the trigger for a wider, synchronized revaluation across other long undervalued currencies. Iraq's recent strides, such as reclaiming full control of its monetary policy and integrating into international oil pricing systems, mirror Vietnam's rise in significance. The timing is notable as institutional frameworks like the IMF and U.S. Treasury align on currency realignment strategies. Investors are connecting the dots between these nations. Investor forums and currency circuit platforms saw explosive engagement within hours of the Treasury document leak. Telegram groups dedicated to currency speculation shattered participation records, and Reddit threads centered around the VND and IQD saw thousands of new comments. One California-based broker even noted a 40% surge in inquiries about the dong within a single day. Influencers and Forex commentators broke down each phrase from the Treasury's report, highlighting terms like actively considered as key indicators of action rather than theory. Experts point out that such language does not appear casually in federal documents. Phrases like alignment with IMF recommendations and benchmarks indicate that Vietnam is likely nearing completion of the audits, transparency requirements, and capital control revisions necessary for monetary repositioning. According to former Treasury official Mark Levin, the fact that the document singles out the dong rather than grouping it with other regional currencies suggests it's being prioritized for strategic review. This in turn fuels optimism among holders of the IQD and ZWL that they too could be next in line. Should the revaluation proceed, even modest shifts could lead to transformative gains for early investors. For instance, if the current rate of 23,000 VND per USD were adjusted to 5,000, returns could quadruple. A further adjustment to 2,000 per USD could produce over an 11x gain. The same logic applies to the IQD and ZW. If Iraq's dinar moves from 1,300 to 7 per USD, the return could be as high as 200x to 300x, while Zimbabwe's path, though more variable, also shows massive potential depending on stabilization through gold-backed reforms. Of course, these figures are speculative and not financial advice. They're based on current economic trajectories and known institutional benchmarks. Yet, this framework provides valuable insight into why such currencies remain the focus of intense scrutiny and anticipation. Many now view the Vietnamese dong as a litmus test for a global wave of monetary rebalancing. Should it succeed, it may serve as a model for other nations hampered by legacy currency control. Vietnam's economic metrics, rising exports, foreign investment, and consistent growth align it perfectly for this transformation. Iraq, too, appears increasingly prepared, especially with its fiscal reforms and enhanced oil revenue strategies. Zimbabwe is working to link its currency to gold reserves, another crucial step in gaining institutional trust. These moves aren't wishful thinking. They represent deliberate, strategic efforts to regain monetary sovereignty. The inclusion of the dong in an official U.S. Treasury document may ultimately mark the moment when speculation turned into policy. Discussions that once lived in online forums have now entered the chambers of international finance. While governments typically keep currency policy changes confidential until implementation, this publication is the strongest public indication of movement we've seen. Those paying attention are preparing accordingly, verifying holdings, securing documentation, and monitoring institutional bulletins. If this momentum continues, the Vietnamese dong may indeed lead a historic shift in how undervalued currencies are treated on the global stage. For those holding VND, IQD, or ZWL, the message is clear. Change may be closer than ever.